Hello everyone, and welcome back to Some Room to Grow. My name's Greg. Today I'm going to be giving an update on our Hügelkultur beds since I've had a few of you asking about these. It's been almost 8 months since I put these together. And the video I made when I built these turned out to be one of my most popular videos of all time, so that's been real exciting to see so many new subscribers to the channel from that video, and a lot of people who are real excited about trying something like this for yourself, or just wanting to see the progress on these and see how they evolve over the years. So let's get to it. So real quick before that, I do want to show you something so you're not wondering what the heck is going on here. So I am new to using these low tunnels. This is the first time I've been using these, and it's only the middle of April, but I've already had a pretty big mistake this year. So I was lazy one day and I kept these covered up. I did not vent them even though it was cold outside. It turned out to be a bright sunny day, and all of our earliest transplants, all the brassicas, got pretty scorched out here. They look like the leaves have been bleached a bit. So that was a pretty unfortunate mistake, and learned my lesson the hard way on that one. Often it's our mistakes that become our best teachers. So now I'm doing a much better job making sure to come out here and open these up every morning, close them up at night. Sometimes I open them all the way like this so they get some direct sunlight, or if it's cloudy I just kind of roll up the ends and keep those open with clothespins on both ends to allow some air to move through there. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, we can actually talk about the beds themselves. So if you haven't seen that video that I made when I built these, you can check that out with the link in the corner, or it's down in the description. And if you have seen that, you probably remember that I planted a cover crop in all of these beds. I just did crimson clover in all of them, and I planted that very densely. And there were a few bald patches, but for the most part it came up really well, so that was good to see. It was an indication that the soil was in good health, and these were able to put down some really deep roots and all that. So that did well in the fall, and then we got quite a bit of snow over the winter, and there was at least 2 feet or so of snow for most of the winter, and that kept everything pretty well insulated even when it was getting down to 15 to 20 degrees below zero. And then as that started to melt off, the south-facing slopes here melted first because they are facing more toward the sun. They were getting some more direct sunlight. And you could see that the clover underneath was still doing just fine, which really surprised me. I didn't realize it was that cold hardy. But I'm sure it wasn't growing during the winter, but it was still very much alive. So then, as more of the snow melted away, you could see that it was all still doing pretty well, and the bed soaked up all that water from the snow, and the temperature warmed up, and everything just exploded again, so much that I had to go around with the pruning shears and give everything a haircut. And I've just been leaving that clover to decompose right where it is and let it feed the soil, and that's done really well. And then for future winters, I think we are just going to cover the beds with wood chips. So planting things into these beds definitely feels pretty weird. It's rather unconventional. It's definitely not what I'm used to, what a lot of gardeners are used to, where you have a nice level surface with some clean, fresh soil, and you can easily organize things in rows or squares or whatever you do. And it's much simpler. You can just plant everything you need to, put some mulch down, and it's pretty easy. This is quite different. You're planting on a slope. And of course, we have all of this stuff still growing in here, so we're trying to work around that. But I'm just figuring it out as I go along and seeing what works, and I think it's going to work pretty well. So then when I do actually want to plant something, I am just tearing the clover down to the stems, trying to get a lot of it out of the way, but leaving a lot of the roots and the plants in the soil, because the roots are holding the soil together, keeping it from eroding away with the rain and the winds and the organic matter, It's feeding the soil, keeping a lot of activity going, helping the soil life out and all that. So I want to leave as much of that there as I can, but then wherever I actually want to plant something, I can go in and pull out the whole plant by the roots. So then we have a planting hole available where we can put something in. And let me get a close-up here so I can show you something. So they may be hard to see here, but there are lots of little nodules on these roots. And that is the nitrogen-fixing bacteria in the soil that are making their homes on the roots and converting the nitrogen from the atmosphere that the plants are bringing in. And then they leave that in the soil. As the roots decompose, they leave all that plant available nitrogen in the soil. So that is also why we want to leave these plants there, so the roots can decompose and leave all that nitrogen. So we use the cover crop just to get the bed started, just so that there was something growing in the soil immediately and it was feeding the soil life. We've seen so much activity underneath all this. When we move it all aside, there are huge earthworms, there's little spider mites and beetles and all kinds of things. I don't even know what they are, but just to see all of that activity is great, and that's exactly what you want in a good, healthy soil. And I'm sure we will plant some more cover crops periodically in here just to keep it going and keep something growing in it, but for the most part we are switching to using wood chips now as we are getting things planted in here. We've got some Swiss chard all in the front of this bed, and we are putting mulch around these to keep that soil covered, and then as this breaks down we can keep adding more mulch and a little bit of compost under there just to maintain nutrient levels. So the cover crop was really great at first, just to give an initial fertility boost, and from now on the wood chips should be the way to go. So while we're out here, I might as well show you what we have growing. So we've got some white Russian kale over here, and this will overwinter pretty well. We've got some from last year that is still producing now in the spring, so all of these that we have along this side of the bed should stick around through the winter and start growing again and give us a nice spring harvest as well. We've got some leeks along this kind of a ledge in a row along there, and then we have some carrots under here. We've had a little trouble coming up. We had some fabric down over the top of that just to keep the soil moist. We do also have this rather heavy, sticky clay soil, so they might have a little trouble getting started in that, but I put some wood chips down, and I think we can see maybe, I'll get my shadow out of there. There are some carrots starting to come up, but they're taking a little bit of time. Then I planted all of our lettuce yesterday. We've got some red romaine. This is the free seed from Baker Creek Seeds this year. And then next to that, we've got some red salad bowl and some Simpson. That is a classic green lettuce. And then next to that, we've got some butter crunch that I'm really excited to try. And also from Baker Creek, we are trying out yodfa, or Chinese broccoli, which is more of a sprouting broccoli. So rather than forming a central head, it just produces lots of little side shoots, little florets that you can just keep harvesting. And I really like the idea of that. It's a bit too much pressure to try to keep the main head going on regular broccoli, so I would prefer something that you can just continuously harvest from. But we do also have some regular gypsy hybrid broccoli growing as well. And we have a mix here that includes some brassicas and some mustards. There's just an assortment of things in a little seed cluster, so not really sure what you're going to get. Next to that, as you saw, we have all of our Bright Lights Swiss chard that just came out here yesterday as well. And we have some red onions. And finally we have dinosaur kale. And yes, we do have slugs. This is the first time that I've ever seen slugs or slug damage on anything in the garden. And I'm sure it's because I'm using these cinder blocks to hold the fabric down. When those are laying flat, that's the perfect place for slugs to hang out during the day, and they just come up and munch on our veggies at night. So I need to switch to doing something different. If I can afford to get some metal stakes to use for all of these beds, I think that will be a better way to go to keep the fabric down than using the cinder blocks. So I suppose that's it for an update for now. Of course, I will be showing a lot more as we get everything else transplanted out here. We have so much more to go. I posted a little animation in one of my previous videos where I showed what I'm hoping this will look like in a few months. So with any luck, that should go pretty well. We have a lot to come out here, and I'm just trying to cram everything in as much as I can. I'm sort of loosely going on the square foot gardening method as far as arranging different blocks of things and trying to mix it up so we don't have all of the same types of plants in the same areas. Try to confuse the pests and all that. So then for my next video, I am of course going to be giving an update on the food forest. I know a lot of you are excited about that. I've had a lot of new subscribers to the channel from that video where I was designing all of this, and it's definitely taken shape more with all of the log borders around here, and all the stuff from last year is starting to come up. We have some new additions, so I'm very excited to do a lot more videos on this and see how it develops this summer. So stay tuned for more of that. Take care, and I'll see you next time.